Today we are discussing Atomic Habits by James Clear. We're going to talk about ideal habits, and we're also going to talk about changing habits, the way he discusses it, the way that I have been applying it. And I recommend checking out the entire series of this playlist, as on this playlist we talk about books that have contributed to building 3 successful businesses, cultivating wonderful communication skills, which is ongoing, same with business, and ideal relationships. So let's start with forming habits. Forming habits. He talks about making it obvious, making it attractive, making it easy, and making it satisfying. This is how we can form ideal habits that are in harmony with our vision. One of the ones that I mentioned in our discussion in the other book was engaging in conversations, starting conversations. This can be helpful in personal life, business life, all areas of life. So he recommends writing down your current habits to become aware of them, and then creating implementation intentions, such as I perform this particular habit at this particular time, at this particular location. So the way I do this is in my morning routines. I wake up 5 a.m. and then what I do is I brush my teeth, have a tall glass of water, about 750 milliliters. Then I head over to the gym, work out. After the gym, I go for a run. And after my run, what I do is I come home, have a breakfast, and then I take a shower, get ready, meditate for 20 minutes, Vipassana meditation, and start my workday. Over the years, I've played around with different tweaks on my morning routine. As you can see, it's not a complex morning routine, yet it is one that I found to be very helpful for me. So I recommend, if you like morning routines, if you found that to be an ideal habit for you, or if you would like to explore it and see if it's an ideal habit for you, to play around with different activities. One of the things I forgot to mention is right when I wake up, actually, I read my auto suggestions. That's the first thing I do when I wake up, read my auto suggestions. So over the years, I have tried a whole bunch of things, and I found that it was helpful for me to include, and by the way, with the auto suggestions are also prayers. So I include the following: spiritual, physical, emotional, and mental. Spiritual is auto suggestions, meditation, and also prayer. For emotional, it's flow. As you know, I make flow a priority. So what I do is I wake up with the very first intention to relax into the flow, be in the flow. As I have found that habits, when performed from a state of flow, are experienced as joyous, blissful, ease. So trying out different habits and seeing a routine, discovering a routine that works best for you. Over the years, this has been my routine. I do this Monday to Friday. And Saturdays and Sundays, I have a varying routine. He also speaks about making the habit, your ideal habit, attractive. So the way I relate to this is I relate it to my definite chief aim. For more on definite chief aim, I'll link to a discussion where we explored Think and Grow Rich in great detail. Or you could say goal or a vision. He speaks about actually setting a system up so that the vision results, the goals, the definite chief aim naturally happens. Because you know the steps to take. You receive within plans, hunches, inspirations. You may explore various styles of habits that people have. You may intuitively check in with yourself and see which habits are resonant with your vision, how you imagine yourself ideally, true identity, as we say, from the premise of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. What are those habits? I found that those are the habits that I genuinely desire to do. So we can say then, if I wasn't doing what I genuinely desire to do, my experience is I don't feel flow. So the attractive aspect for me is flow. I enjoy living authentically, being as I am. And the way I do it is going all into the flow, making flow a priority. And having made flow a priority since 2017, which I would like to discuss also the book Flow by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, I evaluate my habits. I explore my habits and I say, is it flow-based or not? Is this a flow-based habit or not? And if it's not flow-based, then I change the habit, which is what he talks about as well. So attractive to me is flow. If it's a habit that facilitates flow, then that's a habit that I add. What also facilitates flow is making these videos here. Flow-based conversations, which is why I love client relationship discussions, flow-based prosperity, my group coaching and mastermind service, conversations with team members, vendors, clients. I enjoy conversations, and conversations is what we do here on this channel. We engage in conversation. It is a flow enhancer for me. It might be for you. It is, as he says, very attractive. Why is it so attractive? For whatever the reason may be. But as mentioned, for me, is it flow-based? He also speaks about, in making it obvious, designing your environment so that it is supportive of these ideal habits. I recently moved into a new place, and actually, I moved one floor up from the previous place that I was staying because I wanted a bigger place. And why I chose to live in this particular building is, over the years, I created an inventory of what I consider to be an ideal place that is supportive of my ideal habits. So for me, it is close to the gym, some wonderful running paths. It's an environment where there's a lot of people because I love connecting and meeting people. It's also very close to two airports. Billy Bishop Airport, which is the one that we did a video walking to when I went to New York. I'll link in the description to it. And another major airport, Pearson International Airport, is a quick Up Express train ride away, 25 minutes. So the place that I stay is connected to something called the Underground Path. I actually don't even need to wear a jacket in the winter. It gets quite cold over here. I can just go downstairs, take the Underground Path, get on the Up Express and go to the airport. I've done that actually for a few trips to Mexico. I didn't bring a jacket with me. And on the way back, I did the same thing back. So I scoped it out. I looked for areas that are quiet. I looked for areas that I feel comfortable with, easy access, so that my morning routine is as frictionless as possible. Supportive environment. Now, in relation to conversations and connecting with people, one of the habits that I've made over the years is connecting with new people each day. When I had my IT business, I wasn't on social media, so connecting with new people each day meant connecting with new prospects for my business when I'm out and about meeting people, and also going places with my clients where they would introduce me to people. As mentioned a while back, I set the quota to meet 5 new people each day. That was a habit. And again, what makes that habit attractive is that I experience flow in conversations with people. It's attractive for me. Is it attractive for you? I always recommend setting up ideal habits. Ideal habits by checking in with yourself and honestly saying, what are the habits that perhaps the person may have been procrastinating, which no shame in condemnation. What are those habits that I feel like myself doing? And you don't need to look around to this world and think that you need to do it because somebody else does it. These habits, although I meet people that have similar habits, are habits that I found were ideal for me. What I consider to be ideal habits. Now, supportive environments, I live in an area where it's easy for me to connect with people, meet new people. It's an area where there are a lot of tourists. It's an area where a lot of people live. And also, hanging out with my clients, they would bring me to places. Dinners, lunches, events, we would get together. And so these environments were supportive. And I found that in these environments, I got to enjoy having wonderful conversations where I experience flow. I experience flow with conversations. Now, before we get into changing our habits, changing habits that we consider as not ideal, switching them to ideal habits, he also talks about making it satisfying. He says, use reinforcement and give yourself an immediate reward when you have completed your habit. So you can acknowledge it. You can say, today I did it. That's the win. As mentioned, for me, the win is that I complete the habit. Not because of an outcome. Let's say my habit is communication. Engaging in wonderful conversations. If the conversations go in direction A, great. If they go in direction B, you define what A and B is, great. If they go in direction C or D, great. I am not attached. True way of being. I am not attached to outcome. I enjoy doing what I love to do. So that's the win for me. I get to do it. I get to do this habit. The fact that I did the habit the fact that I performed a habit, the fact that I meditated, I don't judge my meditation. The fact that I work out, I can optimize my workouts. I can optimize my meditation. I can optimize my autosuggestion. Yet the win for me is the fact that I did it. He also talks about habit tracking. I don't do this anymore, but you may find this to be very helpful. Before, I created a spreadsheet and I would log my habits, whatever the habits were, and I would have a column that would have a little check mark checked off every time I completed my habit. And that was very satisfying for me. It was very rewarding for me to place a little check mark in the spreadsheet. I also used to use an app back in the days. I don't remember the name of the app, which was a checklist app. And every time I completed a habit each day, I would check it off. And it was very rewarding. And then what I did was I created a deeper association of happiness to checking off the check mark. You can do this by talking to yourself in a way where you reward yourself through the conversation. You appreciate yourself. You thank yourself. You may celebrate wins with your mastermind, your friends, etc. Every time you click the little button to hit the check mark, or if you're doing pen and paper, put the little check mark. Every time you do it, what you'll notice is that each time you put that check mark, you'll experience even more happiness. You're anchoring the check mark, putting the check mark to happiness. So what happens is you feel wonderful completing items on your list, and also you form the habits. Let's talk about changing habits. He says, make it invisible, reduce exposure, remove the cues of this habit from your environment. So one of the things that I did for years is I wouldn't keep in my house particular foods that if I eat them, I wouldn't feel good afterwards. You know what those are for you. I wouldn't keep them in the house. I just wouldn't buy them. Because what I found personally is it was significantly more challenging for me to try not to eat those foods. Even though I would say, you know what, I'll eat a little bit of it. It was significantly harder for me to try to not do it at the end of the day. I don't want to try. To me, it's either I do it or I don't do it. So it was easy for me to not do it by not buying those foods and keeping them in the house. So how can you set up your environment so that it's supportive of your habits? If you like quiet while you're working, can you set up your environment so that it's quiet? I actually have a very minimal workspace, very minimal. I don't have a lot of things on the table. In the room, it's very minimal. It's my desk, it's my chair, there's a mirror, and there is a plant. So being very minimal like that, I find for myself, generates clarity. Oh, speaking of which, I have also, you see sometimes when I do my set, there is a section on the wall with soundproofing, and then there's also an art piece that was given to me by a subscriber from this channel, Oliver. Thank you, Oliver. Now, it's very minimal. Why is it minimal? I find personally is a lot of clarity by being in an environment that is very minimal in decor. That may be true for you. That might not be. Again, what is it for you? For me, the litmus is flow. I can walk into an environment and I say, this is a flow-based environment. He also talks about making it unattractive. So, for example, when I was 17 years old, I used to smoke cigarettes. I started, I believe, around 16 or 17. And I smoked till I was 19 years old. What made it unattractive to me, when I went to the doctor, I remember he tested my lung capacity. And he said, your lung capacity at 19 years old is significantly less for your age. You have a lung capacity of someone that we find is typically 30 years old. And again, there could be exceptions to the rule. And to me, that was very unattractive because what I like to do is I grew up with track and field. I love to run. As mentioned, one of the things that I do 4 days a week, sometimes 5, is I run. I shared with you a wonderful conversation we had at the park in Blue Mountains where I used to run. Running is a wonderful experience for me. It's where I experience flow. And I didn't want that to be an experience where it was extra challenging. I wanted to be able to run and enjoy running and not feel tired running for short distances. Now, maybe there are those that can smoke and they can run for extended periods of time and it doesn't affect them. For me, I noticed that effect. When we would go out sometimes, I would be short of breath. And some of the things that I used to do where I never used to feel tired, I would start feeling tired. So I remember saying to him, well, I'm going to come back one day and this is going to be entirely reversed. And so that's what I did. I quit smoking. I went back after a period of time, a few years later, and he did a lung capacity check on me because I got back into running and cardio, etc. And he said, your lungs have reversed now. And so what happened was not only did the lung capacity return to where it was, I have way more energy now. I run a business. There is a lot of commitments involved with the business. I work out in the morning, I run in the morning, and I snowboard in the evening. I do activities in the evening. And when I was staying up north, I would snowboard in the morning, I would work out in the morning, and I would snowboard in the evening while I would go through my workday, and I wouldn't feel tired. 20 years ago, this would have been significantly harder for me. The compound effect of that resulted in this. Maybe the results don't happen right away. Maybe right away you won't notice the results of your lung capacity or your cardiovascular health improving. Maybe sometimes you will. Yet over the course, this has been the results. So over the years of running, working out, and applying ideal, authentic habits that are authentic to me, I get to enjoy wonderful cardiovascular health. Now, this might be a habit for you. This might not be. When it comes to ideal habits, I recommend checking in with yourself to see what are the ideal habits for you. He also talks about making it difficult, which again is adding more friction to the habit. Going back to the beginning, if you make it invisible, which is reducing exposure, removing the cues for your bad habits, like for example, if I didn't see the food, there wouldn't be a cue there. Making it difficult, adding to that would be, oh, if I would like to go eat this food, now I have to get in the car, I have to get dressed, I have to drive, it's 9 or 10 p.m., I'd rather not do it. So there are ways that we can make these particular habits that are not true and authentic. You genuinely don't desire to do these habits more difficult to the point where it's a lot of work and now I have to force myself to do all these steps in order to do that particular habit. And just by making it difficult, making it invisible, making it unattractive, you'll notice you'll eventually won't do that habit. What is it replaced with? Well, you get to replace it with ideal habits, which he also says, make it unsatisfying. Get an accountability partner and ask someone to watch your behavior. So why this could be unsatisfying is, let's use my personal example. Back in the days, I had a mastermind partner while I was building my IT business, and we would meet and we would have checklists. I mentioned earlier about the rewards that I experienced while checking off my checklist. So we used to meet and we used to go through our checklist. And one of the things that I loved to do was show up with my checklists flawlessly completed. That was very attractive to me, as he says, very satisfying. What was not attractive to me, what was not satisfying, is if I showed up and I didn't complete my checklist, or there were items that I didn't complete on my checklist, more specifically. Now, he wouldn't shame and condemn me, neither would I shame and condemn myself. We would explore ways, which include these areas here, which we used to do this prior to when the book was released. So I'm glad he's pointing it out in this book because it was very helpful. We would explore areas to add more friction so that I wouldn't do the particular habits that I committed not to do, and I would do the particular habits that I committed to do. And that's the benefit of having a masterful, mastermind relationship with an accountability partner, or being part of a mastermind where there's no shaming and condemning, rather exploratory conversations on what can be done to optimize so that you can do the habits that you genuinely desire to do and stop doing the habits that you genuinely desire not to do. The habits that we could say we do only because we formed those habits for whatever the reason may be. For me, smoking back in the days was looking around and seeing other people doing it and thinking it was cool. Whether it is cool or not, that's up to the individual to decide. For me, it was a lot more satisfying to enjoy my runs. It's a lot more satisfying to enjoy snowboarding, to enjoy running in the evening, walking, doing all these things that I love to do and not feel tired doing it. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's conclude this with an auto suggestion to further encourage. You could say, I listen to myself and I trust myself. Thus I know the ideal, authentic habits that are true and authentic for me. As a result of engaging in these authentic habits, I feel like myself. I know which habits are ideal for me. And as I engage in these habits, I enjoy my experiences. I feel bliss, joy, happiness, love, and fulfillment, knowing that I do all the habits that are authentic and true to me. As I engage in ideal habits, I discover more ideal habits to rearrange my entire life to be authentic and true as I am.